something to tell you. I'm going to have to read it out because it's pretty long and I'll never remember it all. So here we go. Can I first of all welcome all the members of the committee and officers to the meeting of the Standards Committee, which, due to the government advice to practice social distancing, this meeting will be held virtually. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as practicable after the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting from remote locations. And could I please ask everybody, would it make sure that mobile phones are either switched off or on silent mode? Members of the committee will have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and officers will be asked to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. Ask that, with the exception of the chairperson, at all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference and to ensure the connection remains as stable as possible. If any member and officer wishes to raise a point or a question, they should use the hands up icon on the screen. You know the one, that one? And I will come to you in the order I receive the requests. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. In the event that the committee requires to vote on other items of business before it at the meeting, Democratic Services will type "Please vote now" in the messaging icon, and I will announce that the members of the committee have 20 seconds to vote by typing "for," "against," or "abstain" in the instant message icon. The decision made by the committee will be announced by the Democratic Services. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary will mute those not being used. I will ask Democratic Services to announce the names of the members of the committee in attendance at this meeting. Officers will be asked to introduce themselves as and when they are invited to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. Right, could I ask Democratic Services to announce those members in attendance now, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the purposes of the recording, my name is Andrew Rees, Democratic Services Manager, and the members of the committee in attendance this morning are Mr. Cliff Jones, Chairperson, Mr. Philip Clark, who is the independent member, and County Borough Councillor Mike Clark. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Okay, we'll now go through the agenda. Item 1. Apologies for absence. Could we record the apologies for absence, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Mrs. Judith Keeley this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? If any member of the committee or an officer has an interest to declare in any matter on the agenda, please use the hands up facility and I will come to you in turn for you to announce your declaration of interest. So are there any declarations of interest? Okay, I don't see any icons, so I assume that there aren't any declarations of interest from any of our members. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of December 2019. Now, I wasn't present at that meeting, so I wouldn't be able to contribute. But please, can I have a mover and a seconder, which will tell me that those minutes are a true record of the meeting held on the 12th of December.
I should have moved, Chair. Did it come through?
No, I'm afraid you'll have to tell me, Mike. So you can move it, Mike. Is there anybody to second that?
Yes, I typed the message in. I was just testing it didn't come through.
Let me just check then. Hang on, I got... No, not there.
I'll try again.
No. No. Mike, you move.
Yep, should be there now.
Chair, I'm prepared to second it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Phil. Right, so the minutes of the last meeting, there has been a mover and a seconder for the minutes to show that they were a true record of the last meeting. Okay, we go on to item 4, which is the Ombudsman's annual letter for 2019-2020. And I'm now going to ask Kelly to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, I'm Kelly Watson, Monitoring Officer for Bridgend County Borough Council. The purpose of this report for you today is to present the Ombudsman annual letter for the period 2019 to 2020. As you are aware, the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales is independent of all government bodies and has legal powers to investigate complaints about public services and independent care providers in Wales. They also investigate complaints that members of local government bodies have breached the authority's code of conduct. In Bridgend County Borough Council, we have an authority complaints officer, and she is the contact officer for the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales. And then myself as monitoring officer, I'm responsible for liaising with the Ombudsman's office regarding any member code of conduct issues. At Appendix A, you will see the Ombudsman's annual report for the period in question. You will note that the complaints against the authority for this period was 34, which is one more than for the same period the previous year. This represents a figure of 0.23 complaints per 1,000 residents. And if you look at some of the tables later on in your pack, you can see that that equates to quite low figures actually in Bridgend. As you can imagine, Children's Services, by the nature of the work it undertakes, receives the majority of the complaints. And a number of these complaints relate to decisions made by Children's Social Services in relation to safeguarding issues, and they tend to generate a lot of complaints by the nature of the work that's being undertaken. In total, during that period, 2018 to 2019, there were 7 code of conduct complaints against the authority's councillors. They were all closed after initial consideration. In addition, there were 3 code of conduct complaints received against town and community councillors, and 2 of those required no further action, and 1 was closed after initial consideration. Members, unless you've got any further questions, I take you to the recommendation at 9.1 and ask you to note the annual letter from the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, I looked at the table you referred to, Kelly, about the complaints per 100,000, and yes, Bridgend, relatively speaking, is pretty low on the table. And as you say, there are things like childcare and matters of that nature are bound to generate complaints. But anyway, thank you very much for the report, Kelly. Can I have somebody please to move that we approve that report and a seconder as well, please?
Move, Chair.
Thank you very much.
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, that matter's dealt with. Item 5 on the agenda is urgent items, and as far as I'm aware, I've not been given notification of any urgent items. Has anything transpired since then, Kelly? Okay, so there are no urgent items. Item 6 is exclusion of the public, and I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to take the committee through the public interest test, please.
Thank you, Chair. As the committee is aware, there is a general principle that the Standards Committee conducts its business in public for the sake of openness and transparency in decision making. However, the next couple of reports you are going to be dealing with do contain personal and confidential information. And on that basis, I'd asked you to balance the need for transparency against those individuals' right to keep their information private. Obviously, the legislation allows you to deal with matters in closed session if you feel it's appropriate, and I'd ask you to undertake that decision making and determine whether you feel it's appropriate to deal with these next 2 items in closed session.
Thank you, Kelly. Andrew, you got your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether you've noticed, but Councillor Paul Davis has indicated in the participation chat that he wishes to declare an interest, so perhaps he can do that.
Okay.
Chair, take me now, Chair.
Yeah, of course you can. Yes.
Yeah, Chair. It's agenda item 7 that I'm declaring a prejudicial interest in. I say I'm a colleague and a friend of 2 of the applicants. I don't know if I can get involved with the other applicants or if I have to walk away completely from the item. I'd have to take advice on that.
Okay. I don't know. There's a very crude test for all this, Paul, but are they friends that you would buy a pint for?
Well, no, Chair, they're a bit closer than that. I don't want to go in political. They're political friends and colleagues, and I feel if I got involved in the decision whether to employ one of them, that I could be criticised for that. So I'd rather not be involved. Thanks.
Okay, Paul. Thank you very much for that. Anyway, it's just a very old and a very crude test, and people refer to friends as how strong is a friendship? Would you buy him a pint? It's a sort of a benchmark. Anyway, you've explained to us, and thank you, Paul. So yes, I think we'll understand if you don't take part in that item on the agenda. Anyway, having heard the moderator's officer give us the explanation of the public interest test, can I now simply have to move and second the fact that we are going to exclude the public from the next items on the agenda?
I move, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm now going to ask the officer to ensure that the recording of the meeting is stopped. Sorry, Kelly.
Sorry, if I can intervene now.